Hello again. Welcome to part 2 of this game of Devilishly Easy. We'll begin by opening our previous version, so I'll click the Open tab. I had saved it as devil1.gmk in Devilishly Easy. I'll select that, I'll open that, and here again is our game, along with our first room. You may remember that it contained the boss and the dragon object. The dragon object, of course, moves up and down, and we control the boss with the boss moves up and down, and we control this dragon with the arrow keys. Okay, so the next thing we're going to use is the fireball object. So we already, you may remember, have the fireball sprite. We're going to create, to go with that, an object. I'll select objects here, click on the little plus sign. Excuse me. I'll create a new object. We'll call this object fireball. So our name of our object is fireball, and we'll associate it with the fireball sprite. We certainly want it to be visible, and at this point we'll click on the OK button. So we now have a fireball object. Some events that we want, I'm going to open the fireball object. Here it is. I'm going to add an event, and I'm going to choose the create event. So when a fireball is created, we're going to take the move fixed action, which is right here, moved fixed, and the fireballs are going to move to the right. So when they're created, we're going to move them to the right, and we're going to set the speed to 32 pixels per game step. So these fireballs are going to travel relatively quickly across the screen. Now, once the fireballs have vanished from view, we want to destroy the object. So we're going to add a second event here, and we're going to go to Other Events, which is right here. I'm going to select Other, and we're going to click on Outside Room. And when the fireball is outside room, we're going to want to destroy the instance of that fireball. So we're going to click the Main 1 tab, which at the moment you can't quite see. There it is, Main 1. And right here, there's a little trash can, destroy the instance. So when the fireball moves outside the room, we're going to destroy the fireball. Now the reason for that is GameMaker is capable of tracking the position of all these objects even when they're not visible to the user. And that's really a waste of computer resources, because once the fireball has vanished from view, it can no longer influence the outcome of the game. So it's a really good idea to destroy objects when they're no longer participating in the game, so that GameMaker doesn't have to keep track of what's going on. Okay, that's all we'll do with the fireball for right now. So I'll click the OK button. And so with the dragon object, what we'd like to do is create fireballs every time the user presses the space bar. So on the dragon object, we're going to take the dragon object. I'm going to add an event. And instead of using the keyboard this time, because we don't want to create fireballs 30 times a second all the time the space bar is held down, we just want to create one fireball as the user presses the space bar. So I'm going to take the key press event. I'm going to take the space key when the user presses the space bar. And the action associated with that is we're going to create, I'm going to go to the Main 1 tab, we're going to create an instance of a fireball object. So I'm going to select Object Fireball. And the question is that we now have to address is, where is the fireball going to be created? Okay, so I'm going to type 100 into X, and I'm going to type 10 into Y, and I'm going to click the relative checkbox, like that. And now what we're going to do is let's run our game and see what happens. So I click the run button. When I hit the space bar, you'll see that wherever my little dragon is, it's breathing fireballs. Now, where did the 10 and 100 come from? Well, I clicked the relative space bar, so the fireball is created in a position that's relative to the position of the dragon, and the x-coordinate measures the distance from the left-hand margin of the screen. The y-coordinate measures the distance in pixels from the top of the screen. So by a little bit of adjustment, you'll see if I just make some changes here, if I set x to 0 and y to 0 and repeat what we just did, what happens is, if I now hit the space bar, you'll see that the fireball doesn't come from quite the right position. It does move with the dragon, but it doesn't come from quite the right position. So I need to move the fireball a little bit to the right, which means increasing x, and a little bit down, actually, which means increasing y. And by a little bit of trial and error, you'll discover that the right numbers here would be 100 for x and 10 to y. Value of 10 for y, which is what the tutorial suggests. And now if we do that and I hit the space bar, the fireball comes right out of the little dragon's snout. Okay, very good. So the next object we'll create is the demon object. I'll click on OK on the dragon object. Let's create a new object, which is the demon. OBJECT DEMON. We'll associate that with the demon sprite, just like that. And on the create event, we'll double click on the demon object. We'll add an event here, which is the create event. What happens when the demon is created? And in this case, we're going to move. But instead of just choosing one direction, I'll select that one, and that one, the three left-hand ones. And that means that when the object is created, GameMaker will choose one of those directions at random. So it'll choose one of those directions. I'll set the speed to 12. And we'll click on OK. And as before, when a demon reaches the end of the screen, we need to decide what we want to do. So we'll add an event here. When it intersects, we'll create a new event, intersect boundary. So when a demon hits either the top or the bottom of the screen, or for that matter, the left or the right, we're going to reverse the vertical direction. So I'm going to reverse the vertical direction like that. So again, this is the demon object. The event that we're programming is what happens when the demon object intersects the top or the bottom of the room. And if that happens, if it was moving up, we're going to want it to move down. And if it was moving down, we're going to want it to move up. Now, as before, if it happens to go outside the room on the left and the right, so we'll do other here, we'll do outside room, we're going to want to destroy that demon object. We'll go to the main one tab, and right here we're going to destroy the instance. And the reason for that, as with the fireballs, is we don't want to track a demon object if it's no longer participating in the action of the game. Okay. So what happens if a demon object collides with a fireball? So we'll take a demon here, and let's see. So we'll consider the demon object. We'll add another event. We'll take the collision event. And this is what happens if a demon has the misfortune to collide with a fireball object right here. This is the collision with the fireball object. In that case, we'll destroy the demon. So there's the destroy instance. And what I want to do is destroy the demon object. And we'll do something with the score because the player will have shot down a demon. So let's set the score. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. So with the object, when the demon collides with the fireball object, we destroy the instance. I'll go to the score tab. We'll take the score control here, set score. I'm going to set the score to 100 because you get 100 points, and we need to click the relative checkbox. And the reason for that is we don't want to give the user an absolute score of 100 points because then he could never get more than 100 points. We want to increase the previous score by 100 points. So we want to add 100 points relative to the player's previous score. Okay, now, of course, if a demon collides with the dragon, then the game is over. The idea is that our dragon has to avoid these demons. So, let's add a collision event for colliding with the dragon object. So here's the demon. If instead we collide with the dragon object, then what do we have to do at this point? We want to show the high score table, which is this action here. You'll see how all this works later, but right now we'll just accept the defaults. And having done that, we'll restart the game because that particular game is over. So we'll go to the main 2 tab and we'll choose this action here, restart the game. So we'll, as I said, we'll show the high score table and restart the game. Okay, we'll click on OK because we're done with the demon object. So the only problem now is we need to create some demons, and so let's program that. The boss is going to breathe these demons. So I'm going to double click on the boss object here. Here's our boss object, and I'm going to this time select the step event. So the step event, and it doesn't matter at this point if we choose begin step, end step, or just step. The step event fires at every step of the game. And as I've said before in this tutorial, GameMaker is programmed to execute at 30 game steps per second. So steps occur all the time when the position of the objects and the collisions and so on are recalculated. And so this event is going to occur 30 times a second, the step event. We're going to take the test chance action. So let's see if we can find that. Let's see, control, here we are. So we're going to take the test chance action, and I'm going to move that over here. And in your mind, if you like, I'm going to roll a 50-sided die. So with a chance of 1 out of 50, we'll click on OK here. With a chance of 1 out of 50, we need to do something. And what we need to do is create an instance of that demon, of the demon object. So, in order to do that, we will create an instance of the demon object, object demon, and let's just leave it like that for a moment. We'll create the demon at exactly the same position as the boss object. I'll check the relative button. We'll click OK, and let's run our game and see what happens. So as you can see, I didn't do very well there. I got shot down almost immediately. So we have to do a much better job of shooting down these enemies. So there's one. That one's... Okay, so our game seems to be working fine, except I don't seem to be doing a very good job of beating it. And we'll leave it like that. And at that point, I'm going to end this section of the tutorial.